nightmare.
Hello and welcome to Cinema Subculture, the podcast dedicated to strange and extreme cinema. My name's Gary.
And I'm Simon.
Okay, this is episode 14 and we're looking at Antichrist from 2009, directed by Lars von Trier.
Do you want to give us a bit of a synopsis, Gary?
So the film follows a couple, only known as he and she, played by Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg, and they suffer the loss of their son in a tragic accident. And she goes through a period of grieving, pretty heavy grief, and in order to overcome that, he, who is also a therapist, takes her to a cabin in the woods to try and recover. It's the basic setup of the film.
Yep.
So, what was your sort of initial thoughts on the film, Simon?
Well, I mean, this film's kind of notorious, yeah. Like most things you'll hear thrown out are accusations of torture porn and graphic sex scenes, things like that, right? So first off, like I really like Von Trier, I do, and I mean I've not seen many of his films, but like, I wasn't getting closed-minded at all. You know what I mean? I was expecting kind of the worst almost, you know, from the visual imagery. Man, I've got to say this was a tame film.
Oh yeah.
But my mind,
Right.
Like, there were two or three particularly graphic images, right? But other than that, like there were times when there could have been far more graphic stuff happen,
Right.
and either chose not to show it or did it in such a way that you didn't have to, you know, it was just implied. I mean, I don't know, we'll cover everything, but like, just even the opening shot, I mean, there's quite a close-up scene of, like, you know, of sex happening.
Right, yeah.
Right, but that was the most graphic sex scene in the film.
Okay.
But whereas I was led to believe with everything that had been reported on this film, this was like pretty much, it wasn't just torture porn, it was real porn, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? That was what I was going to get and expect.
Right, okay.
And I mean, again, we'll talk about some of the stuff that's been written about this film, but I just thought, what?
Right,
Like,
wow.
I as much as I think that some of the stuff that's been written is it so unjust anyway, I don't see that this warranted the. I mean, I've seen like yeah, you get the genital mutilation, right, and that kind of stuff, and sure that's definitely like on the high spectrum of your kind of, you know, graphic violence, but man, I've seen worse stuff done to folk and felt like the Saw films.
You think? Okay.
More graphic stuff depicted. Even I was thinking, like, because one of the things that really kind of I thought was quite an image I've seen in cinema that I thought was quite graphic. I went to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. There's a bit where there's a guy carving the muscle off of a guy's arm.
Right, okay.
Right, and you actually, you know what I mean? And okay, this was more raw, the way it was shot, sure. You know, compared to those kind of Hollywood films, but I mean that was far more graphic, I thought.
All right.
You know what I mean? I'm just throwing that out there because I just was very surprised with how not lean, that's the wrong word. How I don't know, just how not as bad as everyone said it was going to be. It was.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Well, I don't know. I feel like among mainstream films, it's probably up there, probably one of the most extreme. I don't know. I mean,
I guess if you're going to say mainstream films, I understand what you're saying, but I think that's merely for the fact that it's like sex organs that are being mutilated. Like,
aye.
There's a bit where she drills the thing through his leg.
Yeah.
Now, in a Saw film or something like that, you would have saw that like proper, like I mean, it's just through his trouser, and yeah, there's blood, and it looks good, but I mean that could have been achieved quite practically without much than him needing to move his leg a slight way so that it could drill behind it. You know what I mean? Through the trouser.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I just felt like it was a lot more tastefully done than what was being implied.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you're not criticising Von Trier?
No.
In a sense,
no, I'm
saying he wasn't going for that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what my point is, that I don't know where they're getting it from.
Right.
This kind of don't know, like this debaucherous film that,
Right.
like, I mean, I personally think stuff like obviously the One More trilogy was far worse.
Yeah.
Right, I know that's not mainstream cinema,
Aye.
but I mean,
Yeah. Well,
I
what I would say
just
the difference in this was, because I would put this up there as one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen, even though I've seen stuff that's way more graphic.
yes,
The
aye,
difference is
yes.
the psychological
Oh
depth
no,
behind it.
totally,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
But the
What gives it more
criticization,
impact.
the criticisms that are being hurled at this film
Aye.
about the graphic sex scenes.
Okay, yeah.
There's one scene
Mm-hmm.
where we actually see penetration, right?
Yeah.
And the other scene, there's two scenes of masturbation. One's kind of leg crossingly hard to watch, right? But not crazy. You know what I mean? Again, I've already seen blood being ejaculated in other films. It's fine, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I was really just expecting this kind of. Like, I mean, especially when you said like you'd hired like porn actors to do the sex scenes.
Right, okay.
I guess I was just expecting there to be more of that with the way people were reacting to
Right,
it.
okay.
You know what I mean? I
Aye.
guess I'm just even more perplexed at what people are actually reacting to. You know, I didn't think it was done. None of it felt exploitative.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't. That was again talking about when we were talking about him doing the real sex scenes in the Nymphomaniac when we were talking last time. I think we spoke about that. You get the impression that when you say that, you kind of think, oh, he's not gonna. I don't know what I mean. I don't know. I mean this, but you get the impression that he's gonna do it just for the sake of doing it and show like everything to be very kind of shock value.
Right, okay.
Whereas that was what was implied with the stuff that I'd read about this film. Whereas I didn't feel that from the film. I
Right.
felt like it was just very natural and it was none of it was overplayed. You know what I mean? But that was. I mean, I don't know. Just the impression I got
Right.
before watching the film was this. It's going to be this
Okay.
crazy, graphic, sex-filled, uber violent film.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's violence in it, sure, but like
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't feel. I thought it was definitely more psychologically disturbing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay. That's interesting. I don't know, the first time I watched it, I was actually quite disturbed by it.
Right.
The sort of extreme nature of the violence and stuff, but it doesn't really affect me anymore. I think because it's an interesting mix of comedy and
Aye, yeah,
like
definitely.
extremity,
Yeah.
which kind of, the more you watch it, it doesn't kind of quells the effect. The first time I saw it, it did affect me quite a lot.
I mean, to be honest, going in, I was intrigued by the way he managed to, like, I mean, for certainly the first 3/4 of the film, he managed to imply a kind of, there would be like horror film, not cliches, but tropes, where you're thinking something supernatural's going on here, right? But then there would be real life explanations for it, like something like as little as the acorns falling on the roof.
Yeah.
It's when Willem Dafoe wakes up, you kind of think, oh, something's going to happen. It's very like supernatural horror, right thing. And then she's like, it's just acorns. And then you see it is just acorns.
Yeah.
Right? But there's still something not just right all the way through. And really until the end, it was very like, they managed to balance it quite nicely of like, this seems like this could be something supernatural happening, but actually it could also just be something just real life, just all in their head and like just
Aye.
kind of a psychological thing altogether. So I guess I was kind of thinking, I wonder if he is going to go more kind of like possession or something, midway through.
Okay.
But so I was kind of more intrigued with that kind of thing, but as I said, I guess that it was just overhyped the violence for me.
All right.
You know what I mean? I don't know what I was expecting, but for me, it just wasn't nearly as bad as what people seem to be implying.
Right. Okay.
Violence wise, and as I said, there's for having like one graphic sex scene and two fairly graphic, but not that graphic masturbation scenes.
Yeah, I mean, Von Trier's, he's been a kind of controversial director throughout his career. I think this is his most extreme work.
Right.
So I think the fact that people love to attack him, this was kind of the perfect opportunity to do that, and just to kick it up to a kind of ridiculous level. But yeah, I think this is one of his best films. I mean, he's always also a director who works in extremes, not necessarily in extreme horror or extreme imagery, but whatever the idea or like the story line of his films are, he'll take an idea and he'll push it to like absolute breaking point. Whatever it is, like in Mandalay, for example, like ideas of democracy and slavery. He'll investigate them and kind of get to the point where the logic of them completely breaks down. Not for intentionally because he doesn't believe in those ideas, like. But I think interesting thing about Von Trier is he's more interested in attacking people who have absolute values. I think because of his depression and anxieties, a lot of that's about irrationality, like irrational fears.
I mean,
So
yeah.
he's throughout his films he'll critique like rational perspectives. Like that's like one of the main threads of this film.
Yeah.
The rationality exemplified by Defoe's therapist.
When you're saying about like the kind of rational fear, like, I mean, that's obviously very. I found that very interesting when the way he was breaking down her kind of anxiety attacks, into the kind of levels of fear. You know, like the kind of like the pyramid, obviously. But he was talking about it's like the literal that fear is like what would save your life if you're actually in danger. But when you're when it's just in your head, it's like it's what gives you this kind of crippling fear.
Right.
I thought that was quite interesting and quite a weird way, like as she was going through the grief process and things like that. I found that kind of part of the story really interesting. I guess I don't know what I didn't really know much of the story. I knew about the death of the infant and stuff like that. I didn't really know that he was a therapist and stuff like that. But
Right.
I thought that was quite clever. And they kind of we meet the characters like in the prologue, and they're making love or whatever, and you would, for all intents and purposes, think that they were like, like really a close couple or whatever. And for the most part, it seems to be that way. But then there seems to be cracks when she's saying about the previous summer when she was in Eden.
Yeah.
And or before like that he wasn't really interested. Like there seems to be kind of other forces there with the relationship, and the fact that she seems to be kind of almost. Well, she does resent him quite a bit for being this kind of rational character, all kind of knowing.
Yeah.
Almost like she must criticise him for being like too clever, or whatever, like so many times. Whether that's part of the grief process or if it's just part of the relationship that's just coming out. What did you think of the opening, the slow motion opening?
Yeah. I mean, the first time I watched the film, I didn't like that. I thought it was
really?
like incredibly pretentious.
See, he says that as well. I've heard John Trailer say that as well. I thought it was absolutely stunning. Like,
Right.
the one bit like, when the child's coming out of the cot, I mean, see his feet just coming down. I thought that was like amazing. And the actual fall, like with the teddy bear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was all really well put together.
Yeah. No, I like it now. It works as it has to be pretentious in a way because it's kind of setting up the boundaries of the film, because the rest of the film is about how that's interpreted.
Yeah.
Who's to blame? Like, she obviously completely blames herself, and he has quite recovery from it.
He does.
It doesn't explore that. Yeah.
It's almost like she's almost catatonic when the funeral, when they're falling. I thought that was a really nice like shot from within the hearse.
Aye.
That was really interesting as well. But she seems almost catatonic at that point, and he's totally distraught.
Aye.
Like, I guess it's like him being a therapist. It's like he's getting it all out there and then, whereas she's holding it in for so long.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the kind of explanation, the rational explanation of it.
Yeah.
Is that he's kind of getting it out, but he does seem to have like a kind of quick recovery.
Yeah, he kind of uses it as a project to kind of save her.
Yeah. Aye. I mean, from like a lot of the kind of elements, the emotional elements in this film are kind of presented in a kind of cold, like kind of separated way.
Yeah.
He's kind of obviously he's lost his son as well, but as you say, like he's got this kind of thing to focus on, which is helping her,
Mm.
and it's almost like he's taking it as a like when the medical doctor appears. I think it's a medical doctor's giving her tablet pills
Mm.
to like adjust her mood,
Yeah.
and he's like, you can't even take these, because you have to go through it, and it's
Aye.
almost like a cold detachment from
Yeah.
what she's feeling, and then like later on we get the kind of her trying to like get through her anxiety with sex,
Mm.
you know what I mean? But she's not really. There's no emotional
Yeah.
attachment between the two. Really, it's almost just something else to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Aye.
Yeah, he definitely seems to have a different perspective on it.
He sort of represents society in a
Mhm.
way, and society's view of grief being irrational. Because like all Von Trier's films take an individual and investigate their relationship to society, and it's normally like the protagonist will be incredibly naive or
Right.
idealistic
Yeah.
in some ways, but as the story progresses, it'll turn out that they're actually vindicated in whatever they believe.
Hey.
I think it's like Von Trier's kind of contrarian nature. He thinks, well, you believe that's right and this is wrong. I'm going to prove to you that it's the opposite. So in this film, you've got her irrational belief in witchcraft and the evil nature of women, which turns out to be true.
Yeah.
And he's mistaken belief in science as, well, he turns out to be the fool,
Yeah.
basically.
What is your thoughts on the kind of witchcraft side of things? Obviously, it's very, and I like it for this, but it's very ambiguous about the, like it's never specifically mentioned that like she thinks she's a witch, or what I mean, or there's anything really good. You know what I mean? It's never that I picked up anyway. It's never pushed to the full kind of horror cliche, of going there. I mean, the most you get is when the quotation marks three beggars come in at the end.
Aye.
The animals, and there's certain images of her as well, but the hail coming at the end. But what do you think that's what was really going on? The witchcraft thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think the point of the film is the triumph of irrationality over rationality.
Right.
And the misogyny of the film, I think, if you see it as misogynist, I think it's taken it too literally, because that's almost a MacGuffin. I think the way I read the film is nature is evil in the reality of the film, and the point is that he has to he eventually becomes misogynist, vindicating misogyny by killing her at the end. So the point is that there is no rationality, and he vindicates that idea that women are evil and should be burned at the stake, as what actually does at the end. But I don't think Von Trier's a
No, I mean certainly
yeah.
like I wouldn't say that. No, there's a part of me where obviously there are elements that kind of explicitly point to the kind of witchcraft thing, right? But there's a line near the beginning in the kind of first chapter, if you will, where she said that she wishes she was dead, and it's almost kind of like he says, like, what was it he said? He says, I'm not gonna let that happen, I think he says, and it's almost kind of like she's pushing him. She's like done with life, and she can't maybe do it herself, but she pushes him so far, and I know that's kind of maybe taking it at a different level, but that when he put her up against the wall and I realised he was going to kill her, that was kind of what went through my head at first. It was almost like that was kind of her way of getting out as well. You know what I mean? If you're going to take it as a kind of that most of the stuff, that it could be an altered reality kind of in their heads almost. You know what I mean? But that was kind of what kind of occurred to me when that was happening. It could be like her way out. So like, when do you think that she's got into the witchcraft from the previous summer when she was there, like looking into it all?
Yeah, I think when the kid dies, then that sparks the grief, which lets her assume that philosophy as a way of coping with it,
right,
an explanation.
Then what? that's fine. I can I can work from that. But what then explains the whole kind of pseudo torture of the child previous
Right.
summer? That was something I didn't really see coming. You know, it makes it.
Aye, there's also that thread where is she trying to, like, is she responsible for the child's death? Like, does she know about it? Does she facilitate it?
I mean, there's very explicit shots near the end where you see her looking and
Yeah.
seeing the child going up onto the deck.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know.
Yeah, that way the prologue is they show that the prologue again at the end, and it's sort of reimagined with her shot, with her looking at the window, and then you've got the deer also in the room.
But that then could be his interpretation of events, perhaps. Thinking because he had the photos of the child with the shoes on back front, and then he kind of has a flashback to her putting the shoes onto the child. So that could be maybe interpreted as his kind of, you know, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but that's almost like him thinking that this is what she's done, you know.
Could be. I thought that was an objective flashback.
It could be.
Yeah.
I just that you know, if you're going to say that, you know, it could be the same thing with the prologue reimagining at the end.
Yeah, there's ideas that are muted that was she grooming the kid to be the Antichrist. Or,
right.
Like in the booklet to the Criterion edition, the Ian Christie's got an essay and he remarks that the deformed feet is almost like the devil's hooves, and the kid's also called Nick.
I wondered at that as well.
Yeah, is that sort of universal name for the devil or just a Scottish thing?
What's Saint Nick?
Or Old Nick?
Sorry,
yeah.
not Saint Nick.
Aye, that's Santa.
Aye. So I've watched too much Futurama. We've got Santa Claus, as in CLAWS.
Yeah.
As an evil robot. Anyway, Old Nick.
I don't know. I don't know if that'll be a devil reference or that's just something weird.
No, it isn't, because it definitely is a reference, because
think?
there's that Adam Sandler film, Little Nicky.
Oh, okay, right.
I'm sure. I'm just checking to see.
Because I know it's in Tamlin Shanter, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Old Nick. Colloquialism for the devil. But, well, I'm pretty sure that is a thing for the devil.
Right.
In short. Or in long.
Aye.
What were we saying? Yes, that you could be right. I mean, that did cross my mind a couple of times with the Nick reference.
There's a bit of an omen shot as well in the prologue, or I don't know if it's the second version of the prologue, but there's a bit he almost looks straight into the camera, like, you know, that shot at the end of the omen.
That's right. That's in the beginning, I think, before he goes into the room.
Aye.
Yeah, I thought that.
So I don't know. Also in the prologue, do you notice that when he gets out the cot, the shoes are still wrong?
I didn't notice that, no.
I only noticed that the second time I watched it there.
One thing I noticed the second time that I watched it through, when I was watching the commentary, was, you know how at the end, the people come, or the women.
Aye.
I think it's women. What would you say it was?
Yeah, I think it's definitely women.
Yeah, some
faces.
asshole wrote an article on it that said children.
Alright.
I don't think it was children. Yeah, so they've got blurred faces.
Yeah.
But do you notice at the funeral when they're walking?
It's the same.
Yeah, everyone else has blurred faces as well. I didn't notice that the second time around. What do you think that's about?
I guess it's just giving the story a more mythical dimension, in the sense that it's only about the two characters. The rest of society isn't really relevant.
Well, that was another thing. Like, as soon as they mentioned, like, I mean, they literally say the garden around Eden. Yeah, like, I mean, what do you think about that? Like,
yeah, I mean, the religious symbolism is fairly blatant.
Yeah.
I quite like it.
And obviously, like, the whole evil woman, original sin type thing.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean,
the
biblical interpretation is that woman is responsible for the fall of man.
Yeah.
Original sin and all that.
It shows you there's some things in the Bible that are right enough, It's not a bitch.
I think the idea of Eden, he's no bothered about the fact it's a cliche, which I quite like. Just saying, like, okay, I'm I'm above that. I'm just going for something that's sort of more pure. Like,
Yeah.
like as if it's like the first time it's ever been put on film.
Even with the kind of, obviously the kind of, I mean, it was a snake in the Adam and Eve story, but like, we've got the kind of animals, you know, and talking animals as well. So, you know, it's a very interesting.
And that version of Eden is actually evil.
Yes.
I would interpret the film as.
But how do you feel about the three beggars then? Do you feel they're evil? Like, because, I mean, in one of the more comedic scenes, we have Willem Dafoe in the foxhole.
Yes.
And the is it a raven or a crow or something is buried alive apparently. And it starts to wake up and it's like screeching.
Yeah.
And he stones it to death.
Aye.
And then it keeps coming back to life. I mean, you know what I mean? You couldn't write it. Well, you couldn't write it, but you know what I mean? It's like, but then later on, it's the raven or the crow, whatever, that leads him to the wrench, to, you know, to undo the bolt in his leg.
Yeah. Well, I think
they kind of ambiguous a bit, like kind of, because she says like when the three beggars come, someone must die.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they're not really killing who.
They're representations of nature as being an evil thing, because they're always seen as a combination of life and death. The fox is dead and comes back to life. Obviously, you said about the raven, and then the deer's got the fetus hanging out.
Was the fox dead? Like I the way I saw it was there was two fox.
Oh, all right.
There was one, the one that says Chaos Reigns to him, which was fucking kick ass. I thought that was brilliant. And it appeared like there was one lying down on the ground eating itself.
Aye. Nah.
I don't know. No, that was the way I took it. But I get what you're saying. And then there's the bird that falls out the tree as well.
Yeah.
I guess like by the end of it, I kind of figured they were kind of like almost like not good, but like they weren't evil because they hadn't really. Because he'd won.
Right.
You know.
But when he sees all those things, particularly the deer, they make him sort of reconsider his beliefs. They affect him because you normally see him after one of them. He's quite pensive, like kind of thinking. But
no wonder when a blooming fox says to you, "Chaos Reigns." That's what you want to hear, is it? There's also very, again, leading me to the whole kind of, is some of this in their head? Is it just what they're going through their grief process? There was a lot of visual effects of it, you know, when sometimes they were running out into the garden, like ripples.
Oh yeah.
Especially when her flashback the year before when she's hearing the baby like cry.
Aye.
And I think it happens again when he goes out one.
Yeah, it happens quite a few times, I think. Yeah.
That kind of lent to the kind of to my own kind of, but then that could be you're saying if the garden's evil. Feeding is evil. So what were your thoughts? So like there's a kind of proper horror-esque, like, you know, your kind of slasher film moment when she like barges in on him in the tool shed. Totally smacks him.
Yeah.
Right, and then after which she proceeds to try and have sex with him. And then she goes off and grabs that fucking chunk of wood and just smacks it down.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Like it just but see what I mean though, like that, like to me that was right. So you know the scene at the beginning, Irreversible, where the guy's getting his head panned in with the fire extinguisher. To me, if this was the film that the critics seem to be, or the reporters seem to be talking about, we would have seen an extreme close up in that guy's testicles getting mashed to fuck. You know what I mean? That's kind of thing that, if you described to me that happened in the film, with what they were saying, I would have expected. I mean, we didn't even see it. It was really implied.
Yeah, it was pretty much cut out the bottom of the frame.
But man, you felt it. You know what I mean? It worked, but you know what I mean? For some reason that was what was implied to me.
Okay.
You know, that kind of thing, if that was happening, we would have been getting full on, you know, wallpaper paste testicles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit unfair to judge it on those terms, though.
What do you mean?
Because maybe he wasn't going for that.
No. I'm not. I have no problem with the way it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that. What am I trying to? I don't know if you get what I mean. What I'm trying to say.
No, you thought you were going for something different.
No. That's not what it is.
Right.
That's not what it is. Like the reaction to the scenes that are in the film.
Yeah.
Has been of such a high level that I'm thinking, I'm thinking that this is going to be really graphic.
Yeah.
Whereas, whether like taking away the fact, I mean, I thought it was done perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
That was my opinion, but had it been more graphic, I you know, it wouldn't necessarily put me off it. But coming from what they were saying, do you understand what I mean? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying.
I think your problem is with the reaction, no, anything to do with the film
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. That's
yeah.
It's like from like if they'd said to me, this then leads to a scene where she like mashes his testicles with a wooden block,
Aye.
right? With the way they were reacting to it, I
Yeah.
would just have expected like a really gory scene,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas that's not what he's done. So why are they reacting like that to it? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not an effective, and as I say, like I have no problem with the film at all.
Mm-hmm.
But with the way why are they reacting so strongly to these scenes that there's worse stuff in other films? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, it's just because that's what they like to do. I don't know.
Nah,
Are you talking about mainstream, all the sort of spectrum of critics, or
let's
just the
take
Daily Mail?
take that guy that was talking about it, right?
Aye.
I mean, he hadn't even seen it, right?
Yeah.
So he was going on the basis of someone else having seen it. So what have they described to him has happened? You know,
Yeah,
you know
or
what I'm
he's just
saying?
read a press release.
Right. So like, I don't know. Just some of the reaction to it would have implied to me that it would have been a lot worse than it,
Yeah.
more graphic than it was.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that conservative press always does. I mean, look at the video nasties. They were totally blown out of proportion. A lot of these films are, even at the time, are pretty tame, and they get all sorts of weird shit mashed in that list.
I don't know. As I say, I it's not a reflect. I'm really not talking about the film at all. If you know what I mean, my reaction to the film or what I thought of the film. I'm just saying like that scene particularly stood in my mind when I was thinking back on it, thinking, if the film had been as graphic and as violent as these people were saying, it would have been a far more graphic scene. But he's not just doing it for the shock value. He's not just doing it for the kind of the Fulci way of like, you know, look at this gore. You know what I mean? He's not doing it for that.
Right.
But that's what they're implying he's doing it for.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You know, and so it's even more unfair the fact that the level of violence and violent kind of goriness or imagery isn't even. It's not as bad as what they're saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's most of it's implied, which is more than you can say for most torture porn films. You know what I mean?
Aye.
So that statement is totally unfair to the film, calling it a torture porn film. As I said, I guess I'm just a little annoyed with the fact that you know there's this kind of backlash against him when really he's done less graphic stuff in this film than a lot of mainstream films. Other than the genital, you know, stuff. That's obviously not something you would normally see in mainstream films, but I just think, I don't know, it annoys me a wee bit because I just think it's just unfair, you know, and it's probably put a lot of people off seeing it when it really, as I say, just that scene in particular stood out. I was describing it to my wife, saying, you know, this happens, and I'm like, they didn't even show it graphically.
Right.
It's all implied. But from what these people were saying, you'd think they'd like dissected it live. You know what I mean? It was an actual testicle. You know what I mean? That was just the way I was thinking about it.
A lot of critical reaction to the film did see it as a misogynist film.
Right.
Von Trier's had this criticism throughout his career because he prefers to use women as his protagonists, and he'll often put them in quite sort of women despair type situations. But I think there's a more practical explanation for that, in the sense he says he writes about himself, so the content of the characters he thinks is more fit to a female lead, because it's all about anxieties, and also prefers like working with female actresses. Well, I think this is quite an interesting point in Von Trier's career in a technical sense, in the way that it's a combination, I would say, of his like two major influences, Dreyer and Andrei Tarkovsky. Really starkly different directors. And Von Trier kind of started off more on the Tarkovsky side with like Element of Crime, which had a lot of bizarre imagery. But then throughout his career kind of moved to the more Dreyer side. investigating like the sort of limits of realism, particularly with like Dogma, of the whole Dogma movement, and then what he did with Dogville and Mandalay, where he didn't have any sets. So with this film and Melancholia, he's sort of returned to the Tarkovsky end with his resurgence of sort of surreal imagery in his films. And I think he's got to a point where he can combine realism with that quite well together, in the sense that he still goes for a documentary style camera cinematography, and then that contrast you get with the sort of tableaus, that sort of distinct scenes, dreamlike surreal imagery, which I think is really interesting. What's different about this film from Melancholia? Like in Melancholia, he does all that stuff, throws that in at the start, and then it's just a sort of strict story. But Melancholia, that kind of like metaphorical imaginations of things that happen in the actual narrative. Whereas these maybe more like their actual dreams or sort of visions, maybe.
What, in this, sorry?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because in being Melancholia, we get the kind of basically the climax of the film. You know, in kind of scenes we see that from, but they're not necessarily literal depictions of what then happens.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. This it definitely has that kind of feel about it. Like the scenes where she's walking across the bridge when she's having her kind of meditation session on the train.
Yeah.
Those were very like the opening to Melancholia. Just looked very similar and like a similar feel to it.
Yeah. I love the use of CGI in those scenes as well. I think it's maybe the most interesting use of that kind of digital effects.
I mean, like,
think of
the whole film, like, you get so many films. I mean, it's not a big budget film. This, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, what was it? 2 million, 11 million. Sorry, it was 2 million it made.
Right. Okay.
11 million, but that's not a big budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I haven't seen much more convincing CG. You know what I mean? In commentary, he was talking about the even the fog pattern when he's running away from her.
Yeah.
They had to patch it up, you know, in the snow and stuff. And so I really haven't seen much more, say, convincing CGI.
Yeah.
I think that the use of the slow mo, the 1,000 frames, helps that hide that a wee bit, because I guess they can kind of, because there's a lot of work done obviously at the beginning with the wee boy and harnesses and stuff like that. It was hidden, but you couldn't see it. You know what I mean? If you can't see it at that rate, you know what I mean? Even like the fox, it didn't feel like that's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were kind of in with it. It didn't look fake to me, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, for having quite a small budget, I think they used it pretty well with their effects. I've got to say that I loved the whole look of the film. It was just, I mean, I think the only kind of proper colour we get is in that meditation scene. The rest of it's very kind of, well, it's very brown and grey at the start when they're in the apartment and stuff like that. When they go to Eden, it's a little more green and yellow. And we get a few flashes of colour when she's her flashbacks to the previous summer. I don't know, I just love and the sound as well, the way that they talk about making up the sound look really quiet.
Yeah.
You know, dialogue delivery. I thought that was all really kind of organic, and just, it lent itself to that kind of documentary style where you're kind of like almost not hearing some things we're saying sometimes. You know? What do you think to the performances?
Yeah, I thought they were pretty amazing. Yeah, I mean, a film like this, if they're not strong, then you're kind of fucked. But struck gold. Yeah. I mean, it was more her film than his, in the sense that he was kind of more of the straight man. But I thought, Charlotte Gainsbourg particularly did an incredible job. I mean, some of the stuff she had to do in the film was incredibly difficult. I was with it the whole way.
Definitely. You can say about Defoe's like straight man, if you will. I think this is the kind of most restrained I've seen him.
Right.
You know, like I mean, Contreras describes him as quite wild as an actor. You know, he kind of does a lot of kind of, you know, going places, if you know what I mean. But I think, you know, he played it nice and tight, if you know what I mean. It didn't go. I've seen him in some kind of crazy, like, you know, performances over the years. I totally forgot it was on TV the other day. Like, he's in Speed 2. He's the bad guy in Speed 2,
right.
and I was like, holy crap! Like, you know, that way that you just think, whoa, that's a weird film for him to be in, if you know what I mean. But no, I thought he played it even like the kind of, again, the kind of, it was like the kind of slasher film climax when she's chasing him to, and he's got he played that. It wasn't overacted at all. You know what I mean? It was just very real. You know what I mean? None of it was kind of pushed too far. But I know what you mean. She was absolutely amazing. Like, the kind of range of kind of emotion she went through, from even like that short scene where she's supposedly better.
Right, aye.
She tells him that he's better. She's better, and then she says, like, you can't just be happy for me.
Yeah.
That was just brilliant. It's because he's like almost like pissed off that he's not cured her.
Right.
You know, he's like,
Yeah.
he just keeps looking at her, and she's doing all the kind of, she's just being normal.
Aye.
And he's just looking at her as if to say, like, waiting for her to crack. I thought that was good.
What do you think of the end?
I wasn't really sure what to make of it, to be honest. I mean, we get the kind of, when they're having sex by the tree, we get the kind of arms lying through the. But again, that's like the whole nature thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just talking about like life and death, and you know.
Yeah, that was one kind of interesting thing in the film. Sex as creating death rather than life.
Yeah, I guess that's the whole for the prologue. But like when he's kind of walking over the thing, and there's all the bodies lying. Like what would you think to that?
Yeah, I mean, on the commentary they were kind of talking about how, like, there's the scenes where he's eating the berries and stuff like that, and that was maybe saying, like, nature is good as well. There's sort of nourishment you get from nature. I don't know, because the fact that the woman had no faces was a bit. I don't quite know what to make of it.
I wasn't sure. Like, at first, I was kind of like, this is a wee bit weird, is it? But it played so, like, non-threatening.
Yeah.
To me. You know, it could have been played very. Oh, this is kind of creepy. You know, and at first, when the first appear, you think, what's going on here? But then I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the sheer volume of the women.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of them that and the music, the way that it's portrayed, it didn't feel threatening. He didn't look as if he was being, scared or anything like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure what it was meant to mean, but was it meant to mean there's plenty more fish in the sea? Is that what it was, kind of thing? I mean, they all had blurred faces, so
I guess he's escaping the hell of the Garden of Eden in this interpretation of it.
He's being rewarded with 1,000 virgins. I don't know. It was kind of. It didn't waste. It didn't ruin the film or anything. But I just was very kind of like, I wonder what, I was sure, as I say, that it wasn't an ominous ending. It wasn't like they were coming to get him. But I was sure of that. But I wasn't really sure what he was trying to get across, because the rest of the film's fairly like kind of obvious with what it's meaning, if you know what I mean. Like, like the kind of grief process and things like that, and it's like, it's not quite. It's more or less there, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas the ending seems to be kind of left to your own devices.
I don't know, because maybe it's just kind of balance it out, because I was thinking that sort of the idea is nature evil. To some extent, I can agree with that, because there is a lot of vicious aspects to sort of the food chain and stuff like that.
The part where he was saying that he was nature, and he was doing the role play, and he was saying, I'm not that kind of nature, I'm human nature. I thought that was quite interesting.
Okay.
When we look at it with her being, the evil that women do or whatever, and it being your own human nature that harmed. Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. So maybe it's something to do, with that crossover from actual nature.
Yeah.
To like you know, the fact that we are part of all, you know, if you're going to say animals are part of nature, then we are all part of nature thus. So, you know, it's really being afraid of everything, well, being afraid of yourself as much as it, you know what I mean?
The only problem with saying that nature is evil is it's imposing human concepts of morality onto an amoral thing. Like an eagle has no concept of right and wrong if he's killing a bird. Like it's irrelevant in a lot of ways. Even though from our position, I agree with what the film's kind of saying, but
I guess it is personifying. I guess if you're going to personify nature, though, it could be, you know, in terms of good and evil.
Yeah.
Then I guess if she's kind of arguing about that women are effectively evil, then that's just their nature. If you know what I mean, it's not necessarily, even though they're naming it evil, it's not necessarily evil. It's just it's their nature to be that way. The whole, you know, the whole a crying woman is a scheming woman.
Right.
You know, it's almost like that's just in their nature to do that. It's a weird. It's kind of it's what it wasn't what I was expecting. I guess for an ending. I mean, I guess you kind of get your ending, your climax with him killing her, and the epilogue's almost inconsequential.
Yeah.
You know, to the main narrative of the story anyway. Unlike something like Melancholia, where the kind of ending is boom right there in your face. I think it's interesting. I mean, he was saying, like, Von Trier was saying he didn't really like this film for a long time.
Right.
You know, he's kind of he puts it as he's kind of fond of it now.
Right.
I think, like, for such like a kind of interesting and like thought provoking like film, like to come out of like such a deep dark kind of like almost not able to function mind, as he puts it, you know, from writing it and directing it, even though he claims he didn't really help the actors much during the making of it, which I don't know if that's true or not. Like Gainsbourg says that she gives him a lot of credit, but he says like, I wasn't able to do very much.
Aye.
I don't think he shot this either, didn't he? Not.
He didn't do any camera work, which he normally does.
So supposedly. I think for like such a, I mean, I don't know. It just makes you wonder what you doing with your life. You know what I mean? When somebody who like, you know, normally makes good films, but like was barely managing to function, and more or less said he made this film to almost get him out of his funk. Yeah. You know, out of his depression.
Aye.
Still come up with something that like works, and I mean it really does work as on levels of a traditional kind of horror film.
Yeah.
Right, it really does. Even though, you know, we're not getting the kind of full on gore, we're not getting the full on scares. But it, you know, it definitely works the whole kind of people go to a cabin and then shit happens. You know what I mean? Yeah. It works into that totally, as well as in other levels. It just, as I say, it's very. What's the word I'm looking for? It says a lot about him as a director and writer, that he could get this out of himself even at those dark times in his life.
The only thing with that is with Von Trier, you never know quite when he's being serious.
Sure, I get,
yeah. To what extent was that true? I mean, I think he's obviously suffered from depression. I mean, I think you can tell that just to the kind of films he makes.
Yes.
But it seems odd that he would choose to make the film at that point if he was in such a bad way. But
I mean, yeah, no, I guess I get what you're saying. I mean, we spoke about this when we were talking about Melancholia.
Yeah.
I know we haven't spoken about that. We were talking about it one episode. You know, saying about the, you know, some of the choices that he made for her like occupation and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I mean I don't know. I've never been in like a dark deep depression, but you know, I guess he's had it most of his life. Then you know, it maybe is something he felt. I mean, he has said that like. I mean that there was that video you sent me with the Daily Mail reporter talking to it, you know, asking him the question about justify why he made the film. And I mean, there's a bit at the end, I think, where he says that, like, you know, I've made this film and I'm actually quite fond of it now, and I didn't make it for you. Kind of, you know, so I get, you know, you kind of get. I don't think it's all bravado. I think some of it.
Yeah.
is kind of like it was almost just to get himself through it.
Yeah,
You
because
know
in
what
the
I mean?
past he has like all the kind of Danish dogma guys. They were always like pulling pranks
Right,
to create to get press for the
right,
films and
right.
stuff. There was a time when it was they were doing a dogma press conference, and then they leaked a story to the press that they'd all fallen out. The supposed dogma brothers,
Right,
because one of them had broken the rules for
right.
the dogma manifesto. Which is
Uh-huh.
not bullshit, but created a massive like newspaper story.
Right, right.
So
I don't know.
uh,
I'd like to. I mean, it's in. You can kind of tell. Well, some people kind of tell when he's joking in his press conferences, but I mean, I think the ones I've seen of my stage, I'm pretty sure it's mostly he's about 95% joking when he says he's like outlandish stuff. You know what I mean? But the interviews like they had with when it's just one on one, like
aye.
on the Melancholia Blu-ray and things like that. I don't know. I get a kind of sincerity from him
Mm-hmm.
in those moments at least,
Aye.
and when he's talking on like the commentaries and things like that. So I'd like to think he was being sincere enough when
Yeah.
he's saying that stuff. As I say, I think it's kind of more outlandish stuff when he's taking the piss that like people seem to take seriously. That you get a sense of humor kind of thing.
Okay, so any sort of final thoughts on Antichrist?
Well, I probably should have said at the beginning when you asked me about the film instead of ranting. No, I really enjoyed it. I guess as I say, when I say I didn't get what I was expecting, it wasn't. I'm not saying I was disappointed at all. When it just was like I was thinking. They've made it out to be a lot worse than not worse,
Right.
more graphic than it is. I found myself very compelled by the story. I thought the structure was excellent. I thought performances were like mind blowing at times. I've got to admit, my immediate reaction to watching it was I think I enjoyed Melancholia better.
Okay.
More. That's not slighting this at all. I think just Melancholia is a slightly more upbeat films at the beginning, at least. You know what I mean? There's more kind of, I guess there's more characters and stuff like that in it as well. But I like this as a kind of like, as I say, referring back to the whole people go to cabin, the horror film trope. It was like kind of alternative take on the kind of Evil Dead type.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was, and very cleverly done. As I say, I like the moments of, I like when he was talking about fear and it being an irrational thing, and and then us getting certain elements, but then they could be easily explained by real. I like that whole kind of playing on the horror cliches of noises, but no, it's actually just something. Yeah. So I thought it was really cleverly put together, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really masterfully done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Von Trier is one of my favourite directors, and I think this is one of his best films. I think I love the contrasts in it with the realism and the surrealism. I love just how it's a horror film, but it's an art house horror film, which kind of appeals to me. And also like the way Von Trier just often pushes things over the top. I mean, it's disturbing, but at the same time, it's ridiculous. I mean, you get the talking fox.
Yeah. I want that. But
Ejaculating blood stuff.
Yeah. I mean, talking fox is just the voice as well. It sounds like I don't know, somebody mixed with Brian Blessed. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might be turned off by that, but I love that.
I thought
love
that was
shit.
genius.
Yeah.
It was almost like David Lynch, esque, you know what I mean? It was just kind of.
It's a good place to start with Von Trier, and it's kind of the culmination of a lot of the stuff, a lot of his influences and the sort of techniques he was building up through his career. So, highly recommended.
Definitely. Don't let the idiots that don't even watch the film who report on it put you off by claims of extreme violence and graphic sex scenes.
Yeah, I linked that to the Facebook. I mean, when I first read that when the film came out, I was pretty outraged, but now I find it kind of hilarious.
It's absolutely joke. It's crazy, man. I mean, it literally his first to second paragraph he says that he's not watched the film, and instantly there you're like, anything you've got to say doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
Like nothing you've got to. I mean,
This is Christopher Hart, the Daily Mail arts
did you read
critic.
what I had said about like that's his job? Like,
Aye.
how did he get away with saying that?
I don't know.
You know
I mean,
how
that's
you know how I get paid to review films that I watch.
the,
I'm not going to do this one. I'm not going to watch it, but I want to write about it.
that seems to be the worst piece of film journalism I've maybe ever read. It's an absolute disgrace.
I just don't understand how you get away with it. I mean,
Yeah. I guess the mandate of the piece was nothing to do with the film. It was just to
I guess
appeal
so.
to the conservative populace who want to rave against censorship, rave for censorship rather, and sort of mad art house liberals who want to see torture porn and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a total joke. It really is. I mean, as I said, I was saying like the stupid thing is that all he had to do was watch the film, and if he still felt that way, his point of view was justified. You could say, well, okay, fair enough, that's the way you feel.
Yeah.
That's all he had to do was watch the film. And
Yeah.
it's like, what, 103 minutes, the film, 104 minutes?
Aye, something like that.
I mean, and for the most graphic scenes in that, you're lucky if it take up 5 minutes for the most graphic scenes
Yeah.
of the whole film.
Mm.
Just think, a waste of space, man. You know what I mean? It's a waste of space.
Yeah.
Literally, that article being up on the internet
Aye.
is a waste. Is the most wasted piece of like internet space I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
So the Sun had a bit of a reaction to it as well.
Mhm.
I believe.
Did they watch it?
I
Did they
don't
get-
know.
Oh, right.
I read a brief article saying it was pushing the boundaries, should be banned or cut or something like that. But it seems the Daily Mail had a bit of a vendetta. They also sent that journalist to Cannes, I think, just to stir up another kind of video nasty type, to some extent anyway.
It's
Something
just such
to
a shame
blame.
because the film isn't getting any seems to not get its merit for the film, and only gets any kind of coverage for its supposed graphic content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a kid, like, not all. You know, I mean, I've seen some good reviews of it as well, but it's just such a shame that the mainstream, that's the kind of impression.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That was the kind of main impression I had of it
Yeah.
going into it, was that was going to be what it was going to be about. You know what I mean? I knew there'd be more. You know, after seeing Melancholy and stuff like that, I was less inclined to think that was all it was going to be about.
Aye.
But I mean, you can see, like, it's a shame that that's the kind of impression that's been put out there of it.
Aye.
When really that's not what the film's about.
Mhm.
You know. But hey ho, definitely don't be put off. Although us telling you that at the end of this, you know, the podcast, when we've spoiled the whole film for you. You know, if you haven't
Yeah.
seen it by now,
Aye.
probably should put this at the beginning, Gary. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it already. Before we spoil it. So I think that's about us for Antichrist, Gary. Shall we move on to some random shit?
Okay.
What you got for us, Gary?
One thing I'll bring up about the Kino's release of Kubrick's Fear and Desire.
Oh yeah, I
Coming
saw
out.
that. I saw the kind of
Aye.
comparison shots with the restoration.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, compared to what, like, you know, the elements they had.
Yeah.
Or like,
well,
what was there
aye,
previously?
that was. I think there's maybe better ones than that because it was shown on American television.
Right. Okay.
But that was like the one I'd seen. It's like the one on YouTube, which was like the bootleg edition.
Yeah, it's like really blown out whites and everything. Isn't it? Yeah, it was nasty.
But it was originally reported to have 3 short films as well as the feature Fear and Desire.
Yes.
But it turns out that it seems Kino haven't been able to get the rights, finalise the rights to 2 of the shots, which is a bit of a
It's a
stinger.
swing.
Yeah, it's going to have the Seafarers on it, which is a documentary about a sailors' union.
Right. Is that one of those ones that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had before.
But that's the worst one.
Yeah.
Day of the Fight and Flying Padre are much better. So I don't
are
know
they
how
gonna
to write to them.
Are they going to be in high def or?
I think it's going to be
So they kind of
that's a shame.
whacked their
Yeah, wasn't
dick
it?
out onto the table before they had the.
Well,
Aye.
not their fault, but I don't know who has the rights to them. But
Right.
hopefully they'll come out in high
Yeah.
definition at some point. But,
So when's that due for release?
I think it's November.
Right. So what else you got, Gary?
What about that 4K TV coming out?
You see it's going to be like, said something like 78 grand or something. Like,
Is that right? Aye.
I might be wrong with that figure, but like it's expensive.
Aye.
Hundreds of pounds, Gary. Hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah. So this is Sony have announced they're releasing a 4K television later this year. The first one.
Aye. I don't
84
know.
inch, I think it is.
Yeah, like, they're talking about like obviously they've already got the Sony, the 2K, 4K up conversion
Yes.
Blu-ray players, which I think that they aren't that expensive, but this telly's going to be like astronomically priced. Yeah, what did you say? Sorry, inch wise?
84 inch, I think.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's a big telly anyway.
Yeah.
But if that's going to be where you're getting your 4K, I don't know. I'm kind of like just keep it in a.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
It seems a bit early.
Aye.
For this,
it feels like it's almost like a kind of like the 3D things running its course.
Right, aye.
Let's get something else out quickly, kind of thing. Don't know. I mean, what kind of size telly do you really need for the house? You know, aye, sure, like 80 inch that'd be grand.
Aye.
Just, like a full wall or whatever. But I still think Blu-ray is going to look still alright on it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be the case where like, oh, this is another 2K up there. You know what I mean? Just stay with just another 2K, Gary. You know?
Right. Well, I think that's quite. 4K is kind of good as the sort of final goal of 35mm home video presentation, which will be good. I mean, it does mean that it's the last push for squeezing the money out of us. In terms of like the history of film, anyway. I mean, from now on, who knows where digital filmmaking is going to go in terms of resolution. And then we've got all those films we can get 8K TVs or
Aye. No, I get what you're saying though. Like, we're not doing away with like 35mm film. This is going to be the kind of
But I was thinking about this, and even if the technology is available, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to catch on. I mean, if you look at music, that kind of capped out of the CD.
Yeah, I mean,
16-bit.
they had super audio CDs, didn't they?
Which didn't catch on.
No, I mean, I know some people like kind of jumped on to that. Like, it's very like the Laserdisc over here.
Aye.
Which never really took off over here. But yeah, like
I think they still get made for more classical music, as far as I know. But it never caught on for popular music at all.
There's a lot of DVD audio and stuff like that.
It's Blu-ray now.
Oh, really? Do that?
Like things like Beethoven, you get all of his symphonies,
right?
Like somebody getting filmed, things like that, with 24-bit audio, so uncompressed.
All getting filmed, right? Yeah. I would just mean like DVD, like they do DVD audio, like just audio, like no video, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean. CD's pretty good, isn't it? I mean, the kind of the compression techniques of the CD, they've got a lot better over the years. I mean, I saw like this. I was looking up compression one time for some reason or other, and it was on Wikipedia, and it was showing you like I can't remember what track it was, but it was a track and it had been released in the late 80s, like one of the first batch of CDs, and it had been re-released 3 or 4 times, digitally remastered, and it had been compressed, you know, like so it was. Louder and louder every time it was released, just from the kind of the want of like the modern age with the better sound system, stuff like that, wanting like a better reproduction of the audio. So I mean, I don't know how much more you're gonna get out. I mean, audio, okay, sure, if you've got a full sound system, but out of stereo speakers,
right?
Don't know. CDs kind of, I think it's the kind of affordable kind of thing, and I guess like most people have more CDs than like films.
Yeah,
most people. So to replace those might be a bit epic.
Yeah, but I mean, never did that though, from vinyl to CD.
Sure, but I mean, you could be right. I think a lot of people you'd find maybe that were heavy vinyl collectors probably still have their vinyl.
Oh, aye.
So yeah, I get it's not less replacing. I get what you're saying.
No, it's just a curious historical phenomenon. Like music almost went backwards from the CD to the MP3.
Yeah, aye. It's something I can never figure out. I mean, don't get me wrong, the MP3s have come on quite a bit again with their, the bit rates you can use and stuff like that, which definitely helps it. But I mean, I remember like the MP3 players, the little ones first came out, not the kind of iPod ones, but the kind of the little cheapy ones, and you'd listen to something on it, and then you'd put the CD in like some other point, and
Yeah.
it would. I don't know. There's just so much more.
Aye.
You'd hear things you hadn't heard.
Yeah.
You know.
It's the same. It's also like how you listen to music. I mean, people began. If you only listen to music on iPod headphones, it doesn't matter how much it's compressed, which is a more a social, sort of change to how people listen to music.
But I don't know if the 8K, 8K. I don't know if the 4K will take off in a big way or not. It really depends, I guess, if they develop a medium for it. It just feels too soon to be going from Blu-ray. I mean, can they do bigger resolution on Blu-ray? Like actual discs, I mean, like not necessarily the players, but...
Right. It's 50 gig,
that's
the biggest Blu-rays.
Well, no, there's bigger ones now. Right? I think you can get up to 150 gig.
Yeah. Right.
Like using dual side and getting up to 75 on one side. I think there's definitely bigger ones. I think there's even bigger ones than that, man. I'm sure there was a technology they came up with, and it was like I might be wrong, but like a terabyte on like one disc.
All right.
So I don't know how much is governed by this disc space and the medium. I don't know how much is limited by the medium and how much is limited by the technique of writing the stuff on.
Right.
But because if they don't have to change the medium, then I could see them doing it. You know, releasing like 4K Blu-rays and like maybe like allowing the Blu-ray players of now to downscale them, if you will, to play in the players. But much the way they do that when you play a Blu-ray through a standard TV, you know, it can display it standard def, but I don't know. It does really feel too soon. I mean, the 3D thing felt too soon.
Yeah.
That'll never be time.
So, interesting to see the fate of DVD. If we get to 4K, will that drop off at that point? Because we've still got the functionality of DVD on the Blu-ray player.
I think DVD is going to be a hard one to get rid of, because even with like VHS, I mean, like we didn't, like when I was younger, we didn't have like a big collection of VHS. You know what I mean? We had, had like a kind of little bookshelf of them. You know what I mean? But people have like crazy collections of DVDs now. You know what I mean? Even kind of like you're just your standard consumer.
Yeah.
They're far cheaper, easier to get access to, and there's none of the drawbacks of VHS. So people are like more inclined to buy it. Yeah. And replace them if they get broken. You know what I mean? It's not like back in the day when a video would cost you £15 or £16. So I think it's going to be a lot harder for that to drop off.
Yeah.
You don't think? I mean,
Probably.
I know with Blu-ray players becoming cheaper and things like that, but there's still so many people out there, so I can't see a difference.
I know.
My mum actually said that to me the other day there, but like, she's got an HD ready TV, and I'm like, you have to come up. Okay. I'll put on a DVD of something, and and a Blu-ray side by side, and we'll show you the thing. So I don't know whether. I just hope. I don't think Blu-ray's waning at all. I don't. I think it's finally got a grip, a hold, in the kind of mainstream consciousness at least. So I don't think it's gonna. I think it's going to succeed. It's going to eventually take over. But I think it's going to be a far slower process than something like DVD.
Yeah.
I mean, it already has been. It really comes to when people are buying HD TVs and they're giving you a free Blu-ray player.
Right.
Like when it's the same thing. You get your home cinema system with your TV. That's when it will start to, I think, take over. So I mean, they've started doing that now, but it's just when people want to replace their HD TVs, because most people have like at least a big, a flat screen TV, and it's when they actually want to replace that. There you go. That's that, Gary. That's that covered. Anything else you want to say?
I think that's all I've got.
I just had one thing. I noticed it was on the. It was actually from the Criterion Cast. It's their blog or whatever, just their page. I spoke a while ago about the Watchmen Ultimate Cut. They're re-releasing it finally.
I saw that.
And a kind of collector's edition with the graphic novel.
Right.
So that's quite cool. It's like hardback and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's like it was $54 or something like that on the Amazon site, which I mean the ultimate cut's going for like almost $200 in some points. So I've pre-ordered that, because it works out about 30 quid.
Okay.
And I have got the graphic novel already, but like it's hardback, so still pretty cool. You know, I'm not. It's weird. Like I didn't love the film when I saw it, but I really want to see it with all the stuff back in and all together. And then once that goes out of print, I can always sell it. You know what I mean? It looks like a nice enough set, and you get like the kind of motion comic with it and stuff like that. So that's good. I was quite happy when I saw that. I just went to that website by chance. I was thinking of starting listening to it.
Okay.
And that was on it. So that's pretty cool. So I believe we're now on to some pickups.
Yes.
I'll go first because I've got hard low in the Gary, because mine's as usual are on the post. There's a great white shark on its way towards me, and usually that would strike fear and terror into me, but it's okay because I'm not in the sea at the moment. But it's on its way apparently, and because I've ordered it from Amazon, unlike HMV, I don't get it on date of release, so it'll probably be here about Thursday.
Alright.
Still got a steelbook dilemma to go, but we'll see what happens. You be interested in buying that maybe? If I end up sending
possibly
it, but I'll let you know. Cool. Just for cost, isn't it? You know, yeah. So my pickups. I was up to Glasgow yesterday. Otherwise I did fucking nothing. I went into a wee shop I like. It's like, I tell you, that big like place that's a kind of massive cash converters.
Right.
It's like that's all it does is kind of like games and DVD and Blu-ray. And I get Wally for 2-disc edition for £6.
Right.
It's pretty decent. Really decent. I thought. Like I checked out the price. It was. What did you get it for?
It was something around that price.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I actually got it for free. But
Was that the
Disney movie roles? Yeah.
I've now got like enough to get a free movie, but it's all the kind of basic editions. It's like $7.50, so it's not quite into the good, not into the good shit yet. You know what I mean? So I got Wally. That looks amazing. You checked it out yet?
I haven't, no.
No, it's got a nice, a good documentary on it on Pixar as well.
I watched that actually.
Yeah, is that good?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I just got it yesterday. I haven't checked it out. Also purchased yesterday Cinderella Diamond Edition.
Right.
My wife's favourite film, Disney film ever. So it's kind of for her. So
is that? It is out then.
Yes, it just came out on Monday.
Okay.
Sorry, not Monday.
I wasn't sure when it was coming out.
When was it? It was last Monday.
Right.
It was last Monday, so it came out. And I actually got it for $14.99, so I did.
Oh yeah.
From Sainsbury's, but like I went in and it was priced at £18. Now I'd seen it that day on TV. I said the woman that was doing something. She was restocking the shelves. Whatever. Says that's just a stupid question, but this was advertised on TV at $14.99. She's aye no, you'll get it for that price if you take it to till. That's just the price it's going to be. The Mora.
Alright.
So anyway, I got it for $14.99. That looks really good. Like I don't know why I'm surprised, but I've never really watched the film.
Right.
But it I don't know. It's kind of similar look to the obviously the animation of Snow White. It's very kind of hand drawn, very light, like outline, not heavy blacks or anything like that. But it was really crystal clear, really nice. Also, I got to the post this morning, Devil's Rejects, the Rob Zombie film. Haven't seen it yet. Sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses. Seen it? You seen any of those?
I haven't. No. We need to kind of.
House of a Thousand Corpses is apparently Devil's Rejects is I've not seen it at all, but it's apparently the better film. But House of a Thousand Corpses is quite good. It's got a kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel to it, but it kind of it kind of switches it up a wee bit in the first half of the film. It's quite interesting. The second half of the film is more conventional kind of horror film, but it's pretty good. But apparently Devil's Rejects is pretty good.
Right.
The UK edition's got the kind of lengthy. It does these quite big making ofs now. I think the Halloween remake is like a 4-hour making of documentary.
Right, okay.
This is only 2 hours, but yeah, so I got that through today. Apparently that's meant to be good. That's me.
Alright. Yep. Question about Cinderella. Did it have a slipcover?
Did have a slipcover.
Did it? Aye.
Yes.
Because usually it's standard slipcovers at first.
The
first one, isn't it? But a lot of places I've seen pictures of it online. It's sans slipcover.
I saw that actually. I think
so
that's
there
just
is versions with.
I think that's just a bad. It's just a picture.
Right.
But yeah, no, I've seen it in Asda, HMV and Sainsbury's, and they've all had slip
Okay.
covers.
Good stuff.
Did you notice also that they've released Pinocchio?
I saw that. Yeah.
It's like just a standard edition
Yeah.
but it's got the classic, number 2 on the side, whereas the previous platinum edition, much like Sleeping Beauty, didn't have that. They hadn't started doing that yet.
Yeah, that's weird because it was before they kind of did the diamonds, started releasing diamonds. I think that came out, and then the plan was to re-release that as a diamond in like 2015 at the end of the line once we get through all the 12 films or whatever it is. But they changed that and just released it as a.
Because they've released that, and there was a 101 Dalmatians is out as well, and they're both the classic number at the side. But I was surprised at the Pinocchio thing, and it's not cheap either. Like it's it's from going from like a 3-disc 2 Blu-ray DVD edition to going down to just a 1 Blu-ray. So it's not even got the second disc on it, which kind of sucks. There's a lot of stuff on the second disc. It's still like, even like somewhere like Asda, it's still like £16. I'm pretty sure. So that's a bit of a bummer, but I'll still try to find the platinum edition at some point. But Cinderella is really nice, and it's got some decent special features on it. So it's not as feature packed as some has been. It's only 1 disc Blu-ray, but I think the States got like a Blu-ray and DVD combo. We didn't get that this time, but that doesn't bother me. But like, there's not loads of special features on it. There's a Tangled, Tangled that was released. There's a short. 6 minute or 7 minute short based on that, which seems a bit, don't know, random. But there's some nice stuff like storyboarding and the kind of original fairy tale.
Commentary?
I think it does actually have a commentary. I think it does have a commentary. I don't remember. I'm kind of looking it up. I'm going to look it up, but I can't remember it. I'll tell you next time. Stay tuned.
Right.
So go for it. Any more questions, Gary?
No, that'll do. Okay, so I've got 4 Blu-rays in this episode. First one, Criterion edition of the Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, yes.
I got that through. I'd pre-ordered that. Unfortunately, it wasn't qualified in the window of the sale. The Barnes & Noble sale.
What was it?
I think it's 40% off on Amazon.
Sure.
So it was still a decent price.
Yeah, I think I saw it was like still $19 or something, was it not? Yeah.
Aye.
Good price.
You
checked it out yet, or is it?
What?
You checked it out
I haven't seen it, no.
Yeah.
I think it got a 5-star on Blu-ray.com. So.
You said that was like one of your kind of favourite his films.
Definitely.
Like I'd read, like, it might be on Blu-ray.com even, and it was, I think the film got, I might be wrong here, but it only got 3.5 stars or something.
Is that right?
Like, I think so. I might be wrong, but I saw a review of it somewhere and only got 3.5 stars.
Okay.
And I was, because I've heard from a lot of people that it's really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think some people find him a bit pretentious. Wes Anderson.
Right.
It's a very kind of dry humour, kind of quirky humour that maybe turns folk off.
Cool.
Okay, I got the Rumblefish Masters of Cinema Steelbook. This is interesting. There was varying reviews of the transfer. Blu-ray.com gave it a 3.5, I think.
Right.
Said it wasn't that great. And then DVD Beaver said it was excellent, I think. So I haven't looked at it yet. So I don't know. I was disappointed at first. It's got like Matt Dillon, Mickey Rourke. Aye.
I had thought we'd spoke of that before, and you weren't actually that keen on that film.
Oh, really?
I might be wrong.
I like the film a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola.
Right.
Also got this Masters of Cinema Core Fidel.
Right.
This is number 19, the Massive Cinema series.
What number was Rumblefish?
42.
Since you're doing it.
This is a French film from 1923 from the French Impressionist movement. I technically got that for free.
All right.
I sold something on Play.com and I used my funds.
Right.
So yeah, interesting thing about this. It was originally shot at 18 frames per second.
Right.
Obviously in the silent era there was various different frame rates, and Masters of Cinema chose to, the transfer HD master they got was at 25.
Right.
What they chose to do was, So they cut it back to the 18, and then they chose to add in 6 frames per second to make it up to 24, so they could do a progressive transfer. It goes on, explains it at length in the book, because they say how they really wanted to avoid an interlaced transfer. It was always like a bit of a toss-up with silent films and Blu-ray. I mean, I know Criterion, with their release of The Phantom Carriage from 1921, they chose to do an interlaced transfer to preserve the original frame rate, I believe. That always confuses me a bit. I don't quite fully understand all that.
Especially when TVs can't necessarily display them.
Yeah.
You know, generally, if it's like so they've released that. What was the frame rate of that?
What's that?
The Phantom Carriage.
Well, the original frame rate was 18, I think.
Right.
So I guess it's. I don't quite know how that works.
No, I don't know either. I mean, cause like most TVs do it to like 60 or 50.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so 25 or 30, but I don't know how it works.
And last one, another massive cinema sunrise.
What number was that?
Number 1.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
It's quite good to have the first one. I haven't checked this out yet.
FW or no? Yeah.
Aye. I think I just decided to go for this in response to the Sight and Sound poll. Get 2 cuts of the film.
Right. So, what was the review of the video like on Blu-ray.com?
For this, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought so myself. I'd had considered getting it, but I wasn't really sure.
Right. I wasn't that keen in the film the first time I saw it, but I'm going to give it another shot.
So you've seen it already?
Aye. So that's all I've got.
Cool.
This episode.
So I think that rounds up random shit, Gary.
Okay.
Some interesting topics there. we had a few topics.
Yeah.
So what we're going to be looking at next time, Gary?
Okay, so I was wanting to move towards doing some more contemporary, extreme cinema titles. So I think next time we're going to do a Serbian film. One of the most controversial films of recent years.
Yep. So did you say this was more extreme than Antichrist?
Yeah, debatable as to whether it's more extreme. I don't know. It's fairly similar.
Right.
It's probably caused more, made more an impact in terms of its relationship with the BBFC anyway.
Yeah. So, fairly controversial film.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to be looking at next time. As always, you can hit us up at Facebook. We've got a few more likes there, guys. Did you see that? It's getting high now. We almost have as many episodes as we have likes. So that's facebook.com/cinemasubculture, or you can email us at cinema_subculture@hotmail.com. So yeah, I think that's about it, Gary.
Yes, I'll do it.
Do it for this time on the old Cinema Subculture.
So join us next time. Thanks for listening, and
Chaos reigns.